Whoever does not control his own feelings, you will always be a slave to circumstances.
Have you ever stopped to think that maybe your biggest enemy lives inside your own mind? That maybe it's not the people or the problems or the lack of money. Maybe it is how do you feel, how do you react, how do you explode, crash, or escape? This is the truth that no one has the courage to say. Those who don't learn to control their feelings live being controlled by them. And the worst? You don't even notice. Napoleon Hill already warned. The man who conquers himself is more powerful than the man who conquers an empire. But the modern world has taught us otherwise. Running without thinking, accumulating without reflecting, reacting without awareness. Result? A generation full of potential, but emotionally unprepared. Smart people trapped in sabotaging patterns. People with talent, but who give up too soon because they never learned to master their own internal chaos. And here's a statement that may seem controversial. It's not what you feel that defines your life. It's what you do with what you feel. The good news? This can be trained. It doesn't matter if you have a short fuse, anxiety, insecurity, or constant fear. From now on, you will understand how to dominate your internal states with the same firmness as leaders who changed the world. You will learn step by step how to transform your emotions into fuel to enrich your mind, life, and the future. So click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready. Because what I'm going to tell you now can show you more about yourself than years of poorly performed therapy. And if you apply what you hear, you will realize that controlling your feelings is not only possible, it is the first step to manifesting everything you dream of. You know that moment when everything seems to get out of control? When frustration hits hard, fear freezes your thoughts, and anger threatens to take over your life. Therein lies the true test of personal growth. It's not about running more, doing more, or shouting louder. True power is in mastering emotions. Napoleon Hill said that the power of the mind is unlimited when we learn to control it. And this only happens when we stop being a slave to what we feel and start being the master of our own energy. The person who achieves emotional self-control may fall, but they always get up with more clarity and firmness. Imagine an airline pilot experiencing a storm. He can't despair, right? Because if you lose your cool, you lose control of the flight. Life is the same. Emotional self-discipline is what separates those who only dream from those who achieve. People who achieve abundance and become rich, truly, are those who, when faced with pressure, are able to take a deep breath and make decisions guided by reason, not impulsiveness. It's mental reprogramming in action, a skill that can be trained every day with small conscious attitudes. A good exercise is, for example, practicing silence in the midst of chaos. When someone offends you or a situation stresses you, hold for 3 seconds before responding. Breathe. Reflect. This sounds simple, but it activates areas of the brain linked to self-regulation and strengthens your success mindset. We are talking about practical self-help, the one that transforms. After all, mastering your emotions is like having an invisible shield that protects you from internal saboteurs, limiting beliefs, and the traps of negative thinking. It's not about denying emotions, but about using each one as fuel. Anger can be channeled into productive action. Fear can turn into strategic caution. Sadness can awaken compassion. It all depends on how you choose to interpret and react. And here comes the true secret of manifestation. When you vibrate at a frequency of balance, you attract more clarity, more opportunities, and more solutions. This is mind power in its purest form. People who master their emotions are more trustworthy, make better decisions, and command more respect. In the business world, this is pure gold. In professional development, this skill is what puts someone in leadership. They are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones who listen the most. They are not the ones who react the most, but the ones who reflect the most. When the mind is under control, the heart finds peace. And it is in this state that the greatest ideas are born, where abundance flows and manifestation happens naturally. But what if you had real role models to follow? People who have weathered storms far worse than yours and still managed to flourish, grow, lead, and leave transformative legacies? There is hidden wisdom in the stories of those who came before us. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Looking at great names in history is not about idolatry, it's about emotional learning. When you study figures like Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie, you discover that what really put them over the top wasn't just talent or genius. It was emotional mastery. These minds understood early on that, to grow, it was necessary to deal with fear, frustration, and criticism without losing direction. This is real personal development. It's what differentiates those who just survive from those who manage to prosper. The power of the mind, when combined with self-discipline, becomes a daily mental reprogramming machine. Lincoln faced depression throughout his life, yet he led a nation at war. This isn't a coincidence, it's self-control. He knew his purpose was greater than his fleeting feelings. Edison failed thousands of times before getting the light bulb right, but he viewed every mistake as a learning opportunity. This is a success mindset. This is self-help applied on the real battlefield of life. These men were not born ready, but they polished themselves with discipline, positive thinking, and emotional firmness. Henry Ford had his ideas ridiculed before revolutionizing the industry, and Walt Disney was fired for lack of creativity. But they both had something in common, an unshakable faith in their own vision. This is pure manifestation. It is transforming the energy of failure into fuel for success. Anyone who wants to get rich needs to develop this emotional shield. And how does this develop? With reading, with repetition of daily affirmations, with the cultivation of self-discipline, and with the conscious choice of positive thoughts. Andrew Carnegie believed that every human being has the ability to overcome limiting beliefs and achieve abundance. But he also said that this is only possible when emotion is educated. He himself, who came from poverty, became one of the richest men in history because he learned to think strategically even under pressure. He read constantly, invested time in professional development, and practiced self-improvement as a lifestyle. This is what you can do too. Want a practical example? Choose an icon that inspires you. Study his trajectory, understand how he thought, how he reacted to chaos, and then apply this to your everyday life. Ask yourself, how would Edison handle this difficulty? Or what would Lincoln do now? This activates your mind to think like a leader, acts as an emotional anchor, giving you focus and strength to follow. The key is to repeat this process until it becomes part of your identity. And when clarity comes into play, when you really know what you want and why you want it, something magical happens. What used to bring you down now becomes a springboard. And it is this emotional clarity, this invisible fuel, that we are going to talk about now. There is an extraordinary strength that comes when you really know what you want. It's as if the universe begins to open doors that previously seemed invisible. And that's not magic, it's clarity. When you define your goals in great detail, your emotions stop sabotaging you and start serving you. Napoleon Hill said that burning desire is the basis of any achievement, but this desire needs to be directed. That's where the power of a well-trained mind comes in. It stops spinning in circles and starts building bridges towards your destiny. This is personal growth in practice. Look at Thomas Edison. Man did not try to invent the light bulb. He decided he would go. It wasn't a maybe, it was a when. And that made all the difference. Each failed attempt did not shake him emotionally because he knew, with absolute clarity, what he was building. When you have a crystal clear purpose, you don't react to your emotions, you command them. This is emotional self-discipline. This is a success mindset. And most importantly, this is the direct path to manifesting any reality you desire. Now think about yourself. What exactly do you want to manifest? Abundance? Wealth? A new business? A healthy relationship? If you can't describe it in detail, it's like asking for something in the dark. The mind needs direction, and emotions need focus. Take a notebook and clearly write down your 3 biggest goals. Describe what life would be like if they were already real. This simple practice of mental reprogramming changes your vibration and begins to attract the right situations. Without clarity, negative thinking becomes autopilot. Anxiety grows, fear dominates, and limiting beliefs begin to control your decisions. But when you know where you're going, even the stumbles make sense. You stop seeing problems as punishments and start seeing each obstacle as part of the process. This is deep personal development, one that truly transforms. And no, you don't have to be perfect, you just need to be committed to your vision. And if today you still feel lost or emotionally unstable, know that this can change. Read books like Who Thinks Gets Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Power of the Subconscious by Joseph Murphy, or The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. They all reinforce the same principle. Emotional clarity plus mental focus equals manifestation. This is elevated self-help. This is a practical life tool. Once you discover this key, it is impossible to go back. But of course, there's no point in just knowing what you want if your emotional structure isn't strong enough to deal with the ups and downs of the journey. Because only those who train their mind like they train a muscle can continue even when everything seems to go wrong. Training the mind to resist difficulties is like building a muscle. Nobody wakes up resilient. Emotional resilience is cultivated little by little, facing discomfort with curiosity rather than despair. Walt Disney is a great example of this. He lost everything more than once before creating his empire. But what kept him going? A growth mindset. He did not see himself as a victim of circumstances. He saw each fall as part of the process of personal growth and self-improvement. And this is what many still don't understand. Feelings can be trained. Emotion does not need to be a brake. It can be the fuel. But to do this, you need constancy. This is why so many give up. They want results without emotional preparation. But whoever trains the mind, whoever masters the power of the mind with patience and practice, begins to notice a pattern. The challenges don't go away, but you become stronger. It's as if, instead of asking for life to become easier, you want to become better. This is the key to manifestation, not what you attract, but who you become as you attract. Let's bring this to your reality. Try for 7 days, starting your day with a powerful affirmation. Something like, I am emotionally strong and nothing can stop me. Say this by looking into your eyes in the mirror. And when frustration comes, remember the phrase. This practice, although it may seem small, triggers a change in your nervous system. It's real-time mental reprogramming. What's more, it shows you that you are capable of building your own emotional foundation, one brick a day. Now, if you've come this far, it's because you feel this call within you to evolve. So take advantage of this moment, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is very important for the growth of the channel and, mainly, to ensure that you continue to receive content like this. And of course, your participation helps spread this message to more people who also want to enrich their minds and lives. Resilience is not about not falling. It is about getting up more consciously. It's about understanding that every fall is an invitation to grow. Passion for your own journey begins to emerge exactly when you stop running away from discomfort and start using it as a tool for self-transformation. It's as if chaos stopped being your enemy and became your personal emotional trainer. This is real, practical, and necessary self-help. But not everyone has this inner fire burning. Not everyone has discovered yet that when you find your passion, that cause or purpose that makes your heart vibrate, everything changes. Emotions stop being obstacles and become allies. When you find something that makes your soul vibrate, everything around you starts to align. Passion is not just a beautiful feeling, it is a driving force. Albert Einstein, for example, had difficulties at school, was seen as distracted, unfit for the traditional model. But physics ignited something inside him. It was this passion that kept him firm, even in the face of criticism, doubts, and closed doors. This is what many still don't realize. When passion aligns with your purpose, it transforms effort into pleasure and suffering into overcoming. The passionate mind is a powerful mind. When the heart is involved, self-discipline stops being a burden and becomes pleasurable. The power of the mind finds its ideal fuel. You start to wake up more excited, tasks seem to make more sense, and even challenges become more bearable. That, indeed, is a successful mindset. Living with purpose, with genuine motivation, with that sparkle in your eyes that you can't buy but awaken. Napoleon Hill said, "Nothing can resist the force of a burning desire." And passion is the purest form of this desire. But be careful. Following your passion does not mean abandoning everything on impulse. It's asking the right questions. What would you do even if you weren't paid for it? What subject makes you lose track of time? What kind of conversations do you feel alive in? From these answers, you start to put together a map. And then, yes, the manifestation journey begins. Because the universe responds to coherence. When you feel, think, and act towards what you love, doors begin to open. Want practical examples? If your passion is cooking, create a profile sharing recipes and stories. If you love writing, publish texts about your personal growth journey. If you love helping people, think about mentoring or online content. Passion, when expressed, attracts. It magnetizes. She communicates with a strength that no technique alone can generate. And this applies both to enriching yourself financially and spiritually. Of course, it's not always easy. Passion is often accompanied by fear. What if it doesn't work out? But that's where mental reprogramming comes in. Swap the what if it goes wrong by what if it's better than I imagine. This simple shift in thinking changes your vibration. Positive thinking is strategic action, not fantasy. It's you saying to the universe, I trust. And when that happens, manifestation becomes inevitable. And do you know what happens after you find your passion? You develop an emotional flexibility that makes you practically failure-proof. It's as if passion gives you wings, but also roots. And it is precisely this ability to adapt, to evolve even in the midst of chaos, that we will explore now. Charles Darwin did not say that the strongest survive, but the most adaptable. And this applies directly to the universe of emotions. In a world that is constantly changing, those who do not learn to adapt emotionally suffer a lot. The emotionally rigid person breaks at the first wind. Those who cultivate emotional flexibility bend, but do not break. This is mind power in action. It's the success mindset that understands that falling is not the problem. The problem is falling and refusing to change. And changing is, first and foremost, an internal decision. Adapting emotionally is accepting that not everything is under your control, but that your response always will be. When something doesn't go as expected, you can react with desperation or with presence. You can blame the world or ask, what can I learn from this? This is the key to true personal development. Stop fighting reality and start dancing with it. That's what Napoleon Hill taught when he talked about turning temporary defeats into lasting lessons. It's about growing even in chaos. A good example is entrepreneurs who failed several times before getting it right. They didn't give up because they had a fixed plan. They evolved because they had a vision, but they knew how to adapt the path. This is the difference between stubbornness and persistence. The first resists change, the second learns from it. And that goes for everything: relationships, business, health, finances. When you flex your emotional response, you become lighter. And lightness attracts abundance. Now here's a simple exercise. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what emotions did I feel today? How did I react to them? What other path could I have chosen? This daily reflection, which takes less than 10 minutes, is a powerful self-help tool. It gives you clarity about emotional patterns and shows where your mind is still stuck in limiting beliefs. Doing this is like adjusting your internal route every day, and this habit transforms. It is important to remember that emotional adaptability is not passivity. It's strategic intelligence. It's knowing when to retreat, when to advance, when to wait. It is knowing that the universe does not respond to rigidity, but to flexibility with intention. When you adapt without losing your vision, you manifest more accurately. Your energy becomes compatible with the flow of life. And whoever flows reaches. Whoever resists gets stuck. Just like that. And that is why those who learn to adapt emotionally develop, without realizing it, an insatiable thirst for learning. Because learning is, in itself, an act of emotional humility. And it is this continuous desire for evolution that takes us to the next step. Learning as an emotional tool. Learning is not just about accumulating knowledge. It is a deep process of emotional polishing. Andrew Carnegie, one of the greatest names in the history of wealth, said that continuous learning was his secret weapon. He knew that the more he learned, the more emotionally prepared he was to make complex decisions. This is mental reprogramming. You train your mind to look for solutions instead of getting stuck in problems. And, in this process, personal development happens effortlessly, because you are constantly updating the way you feel, think, and act. Those who learn with humility develop silent, emotional strength. You know that person who doesn't shout, but who conveys security just by talking. Normally, she is someone who allows herself to learn from everything and everyone. This is emotional self-discipline. Do not react on impulse, but act wisely. And this wisdom comes from the right information, from constant reading, from attentive listening. It is at this point that the mind becomes a conduit for abundance, wealth, manifestation, and real personal growth. But be careful. Not just any learning process generates transformation. It is necessary to look for content that touches the soul, that changes the way you see life. Books like Smarter Than the Devil by Napoleon Hill, Awaken Your Inner Giant by Tony Robbins, or The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod are true emotional guides. They show that the biggest investment you can make is not in things, but in yourself. Because the mind trained with good content begins to emit different signals, and the universe responds to these signals with more opportunities. Want a simple exercise? Choose a topic that you feel needs emotional development, such as patience, trust, or anger management. Search for a book, a course, or even videos about it. Dedicate 30 minutes a day to this study for a week. Write down what you feel, what you discover, what to change. This is practical personal growth. This is the basis of self-help that transforms. Because you're not just reading, you're rebuilding yourself from within. Learning is also accepting that you don't know everything. That making mistakes is part of it, That each new piece of information is a tool to better deal with your feelings. When you understand this, even negative thinking begins to lose strength. Because your mind now has more arguments, more repertoire, more resources. And the more internal resources you develop, the stronger you become in the face of the unexpected. This is the basis of any successful mindset. And over time, something silently changes inside you. Your posture, your energy, your look. You begin to see the world with more lightness, more hope, more faith. This is where the true power of a positive mental attitude comes in. When everything around you seems to fall apart, what remains is your attitude. And that's exactly where the secret lies. Napoleon Hill was categorical when he stated, "A positive mental attitude is the starting point of all riches." And we're not just talking about money. We're talking about abundance on all levels. People who develop the habit of maintaining positive thoughts, even in the midst of chaos, build an emotional fortress that nothing can tear down. This is mind power. This is real personal growth. It's not about pretending that everything is fine, but choosing how to respond to what happens. Norman Vincent Peale, another self-help giant, said that how you look at a problem is more important than the problem itself. When you cultivate a positive mindset, you change your field of attraction. You stop focusing on what's missing and start seeing what's possible. This activates the power of manifestation. Positive thinking is not denying reality. It is building a new, smarter, lighter, and more effective perception. It's about creating a lighter life, even in difficult times. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight. Thinking positive requires training, requires mental reprogramming. And the best way to do this is to consciously replace each negative thought that arises with a powerful new affirmation. Example: when the doubt arises, it won't work out. Say, "Everything is always working out for me." Do this dozens of times a day. Yes, dozens, because your mind has been trained for years to sabotage you. Now, it's your turn to train her to empower you. People with a positive mental attitude also have more energy. They don't drag themselves through life, they walk with presence. And do you know the most curious thing? They do not depend on external motivation. Motivation is born within, like a constant flame. This transforms professional development, relationships, and even physical health. And it all starts with a decision. The decision to no longer feed the limiting beliefs that drag you down. And that, my friend, changes everything. A great exercise is to start the day with gratitude. List 5 good things, no matter how small. This daily practice changes your brain chemistry. Scientifically proven. You feel lighter, calmer, and stronger. And when the mind is in this state, ideas flow, inspiration comes, and the universe responds. It is practical manifestation. It is personal development anchored in science, energy, and action. And the best? Anyone can do it. But there is a secret behind a positive mental attitude that few know. It shapes your habits. Because whoever thinks differently, acts differently. And when your actions change, your entire life changes. That's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Benjamin Franklin understood something that many still ignore. Great results come from small habits. And the most interesting thing is that these habits are not just actions. They are repeated emotional responses. When you create a habit of complaining, for example, you are reinforcing emotions of scarcity. But when you create the habit of being grateful, you are strengthening positive thinking and making space for abundance. This is personal development in detail. That's where true self-improvement begins, in the daily patterns that seem small but build everything. Franklin had a system where he monitored 13 virtues every day, writing down their behaviors and evaluating their emotional evolution. This was mental reprogramming long before that term existed. He understood that, to get rich not only in his pocket, but in life, it was necessary to have emotional discipline. When your habits are shaped by conscious choices, your success mindset becomes stronger because you are no longer a hostage to impulses. You begin to act out of intention, not reaction. Do you want to apply this in practice? Take a notebook and write down the 3 habits that are holding you back the most today. It could be procrastination, comparison, outbursts of anger, excessive consumption of social media. Be honest. Then, set a micro-habit that goes in the opposite direction. For example, if you procrastinate, commit to working 10 minutes straight before any distractions. This simple action, repeated consistently, changes your identity. And identity is what sustains any lasting transformation. Emotions are the trigger behind habits. Do you feel bored? Touch your cell phone. Do you feel frustrated? Eat something. Are you afraid? Avoid taking action. Do you see how it all starts inside the mind? Therefore, controlling feelings is the key to changing behaviors. This is deep self-help, and there's nothing superficial about it. Napoleon Hill once said, "Master your inner world and the outer world will bow to you." And he was right, because everything you repeat emotionally ends up becoming reality. Another important point, habits shaped by emotion can also create a positive spiral. If you feel gratitude, you act generously. If you feel enthusiastic, you create more easily. If you feel confident, take risks wisely. In other words, your emotional state directly influences your actions, which influence your results. And that's when manifestation stops being theory and becomes practice. The more aligned you are internally, the more fluid the external world becomes. And when you master your habits with this awareness, something magical happens. You start to live with more intention, more presence, more purpose. You start building something bigger than results. You start building a legacy. Of all the superpowers a person can develop, perhaps the quietest and most transformative is emotional control. He does not attract attention like a trophy, but builds legacies that span generations. Martin Luther King Jr. is a living example of this. He met hate with love, chaos with peace, violence with firm words. This was not weakness. It was pure power. He understood that he could not change the world if he was not able to govern his own emotions. This type of strength comes from emotional self-discipline and personal development cultivated day after day. People who leave deep marks are not those who have had the easiest life. They are those who have decided not to allow negative emotions to shape their actions. They had clarity of purpose, focus on what they wanted to manifest, and did not allow themselves to be diverted by the storms of the path. This firm, calm, and strategic posture is the result of constant mental reprogramming. Napoleon Hill reminds us that calm is a symbol of absolute power. And this is a daily choice. Breathe, reflect, respond with intention. A legacy is not built with emotional outbursts, but with firmness in the face of adversity, with coherent actions that inspire others to do the same. This applies in family, in business, in relationships. Being the person who maintains balance when everything seems out of balance turns your presence into a reference. And this silent influence is more powerful than 1,000 words. It is an invitation for others to also begin their journey of personal growth, motivation, and self-improvement. Want to work out? Start noticing the impact of your emotions on others. How do you react when faced with problems? How do your words affect those around you? Imagine if someone were writing down your emotional reactions like Franklin did his habits. What would this person learn from you? This type of reflection transforms, because it invites you to get out of automatic mode and take responsibility for the type of energy you spread. This is mind power applied to legacy building. Now imagine this, 10, 20, 30 years from now. What mark do you want to leave on the world? What message will your life convey, even when you are no longer here? This is not built by chance. It is built with daily choices, emotional, conscious choices aligned with the person you want to be. And the more you control your feelings, the more intentional your presence becomes. And the impression you leave on people becomes stronger. And now that you understand the power of shaping your destiny based on emotional control, it's time to connect it all. Because it's not enough to know. It is necessary to act. It's time to look inside honestly, apply these principles, and take control of your story. So tell me in the comments, how long will you allow your emotions to decide for you? How long will you repeat patterns that only keep you away from the life you deserve? Everything you've heard here isn't theory from a pretty book. It's a call to action. Because knowing doesn't change anything. Applying is what changes everything. And you can start today. With a notebook. With an affirmation. With a different choice in the face of the next emotion that visits you. What habits do you need to abandon to build your new version? What thoughts do you repeat that stop you from growing? Have you ever noticed how small changes in the way you feel can completely transform your results? And most importantly, what will happen to your life if you continue exactly as you are? Do you really want to continue being hostage to uncontrolled feelings? Or do you want to take control of your story once and for all? Your mind is a manifestation machine, but it only works when you command it, and that requires presence, intention, and practice. If this content made you reflect, then don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. This way you don't miss the next videos and continue fueling this journey of transformation. Because your personal growth can no longer be postponed. And I will be here in each video showing you the way. Do you see the video that is now appearing on your screen? He didn't appear to you by chance. Click and see, as it could help you a lot.